Oh, it's time now to introduce my live guests here on the programme. Gordon Chang, the author of The Coming Collapse of China. He's actually in Toronto in Canada today. Hello, Gordon.
How you doing?
Hello, I'm very well. Thanks very much for joining us. How's Toronto?
Toronto is beautiful as it always is. You know, Canada's a wonderful country.
It is indeed. I know I spoke to you a little earlier on and you weren't very happy about the traffic situation in Toronto. You said Los Angeles traffic was actually not as bad as traffic in Toronto. Have you been driving around today and testing this theory?
No, I've done that so many times, though. And the real problem here is that they've not built any roads. So you have Toronto, which is growing by leaps and bounds. And at the same time, you don't have more roads and you don't have very much in the way of public transport. So you're going to have these enormous traffic jams, and they occur all the time.
OK, well, perhaps a few Canadians could maybe get in touch with us at BBC World Biz and tell us why those roads aren't being built, and perhaps there are very good reasons. Look forward to hearing from you. Let's bring in Jennifer Cheng as well in Hong Kong. She is Chief Executive of the cosmetics firm Glam-it. She's been on the programme a couple of times. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi. Really glad to be back, John.
Great to have you back. So how's Hong Kong?
Hong Kong's nice. Can't complain. We're very busy.
First thing in the morning?
First thing in the morning, had my cup of coffee. Hopefully don't spill it this time.
Okay, yeah, don't spill it in the desk at your end. It could, could cut you off completely. Well, thank you to you both for joining us here on Business Matters. Let's talk about the commercial fallout from the Snowden revelations. We were just hearing from Daniel Castro from this think tank, the Information Technology and Innovation Foundation, who was in Washington. Gordon Chang, first of all, are you surprised that American businesses are suffering because of Snowden and what he released?
No, not at all. Because I think that essentially, you know, countries around the world are going to raise these legitimate questions about what they're getting when they buy U.S. equipment. And the U.S. government, of course, has been intransigent on this issue. And I can understand why. If you lived in the United States through 9/11, you would understand the mindset of government officials. But nonetheless, people around the world don't understand that. And so you've got this problem where U.S. business suffers because of just the intransigence of the American government.
So do you think the government is taking the fallout from this seriously, or do they need to think about much more reform of surveillance and make it seem as if they are up to, not up to what they have been accused of being up to in the last few years?
Yeah, I think the government is taking it seriously. You got to remember that the president, Barack Obama, has a lot of support in Silicon Valley. He looked to them, during his two campaigns. And so when they speak and they've spoken to him, he certainly listens. But, it's an issue where you have really two irreconcilable positions. And he's not going to please anybody by whatever decision he makes.
And Gordon, I know you've been writing on another but heavily related subject, and this is to do with the fact that American technology firms are having a very bad time of it in China.
Yes, well, there the issues are different because for a very long period, the Chinese government has launched a broad-based attack against American business on a number of different fronts. And so they knew what was going on with Snowden for a number of reasons. Matter of fact, Snowden may have been working alongside them. So they knew what was happening. But what they've been doing is using this as an excuse to attack American business. So there's been a ban on Windows 8 from Microsoft. There's been an investigation of IBM. And of course, Cisco Systems has been the object of an attack from state media. This is a broad-based issue right now, and it's certainly one that's not going to go away because China is going to drive this for all it's worth.
Is this a form of protectionism? Is it a way of the Chinese government prioritizing homegrown businesses over foreign businesses, American businesses perhaps in particular, or is it something broader than that?
Oh, absolutely. Since about the turn of the century, China has had these indigenous innovation product accreditation rules, which are meant to take technology away from foreign companies so that domestic companies can learn it, use it, and put it into their products. This is something that's been going on long before Snowden arrived on the scene, and it's going to occur a long time after Snowden is forgotten. This is just a predatory government, and essentially they're going to use any excuse they possibly can to undermine non-Chinese businesses.
Jennifer Cheng in Hong Kong, do you agree that's what China is doing?
Well, I think that it's very the case at hand. It's very it's more universal because when it comes to companies, I think consumers find it really convenient and also creepy when these companies know what they want to purchase as a result of data mining or past purchase history. We have to actually really balance these issues of privacy and security, and the world is evolving at such a fast pace with these accompanying problems and a challenge to continuously come up with solutions. So it's actually kind of ironic because these so-called solutions that technology is bringing is opening up a new can of worms and new problems that demand new fixes, right? And as we're, as a whole, getting more automated and reliant on these new technologies, there's this increased need for data and personal data. And it's, I guess, a question for all of us how much we want to sacrifice to have these things like security, convenience, customization, easier lives, and where do we draw the line exactly? I think that's a question we need to keep asking ourselves because on the one hand, you have people saying it's very, Big Brother or George Orwell's, 1984 Animal Farm to have the government and security agencies knowing so much about you. But at the same time, these measures are important because they separate and protect people from acts of terrorism, cyber attacks and other attacks, right?
And do you think the Hong Kong authorities have got the balance right?
I think everyone is still figuring out what they need to do. And for the U.S., for example, the tech sector being hit like this, I think it's a learning opportunity for everyone to sort of figure out, what do we do next? How do we improve the situation and improve what we do as companies and brands so that we can really, balance these political forces and also consumer needs.
OK, well, we'll pause just there. We're going to continue with the technological theme. It's quite a strand through this programme, actually. Let's say you've spent years and millions of dollars developing a new technology, something better than anything your rivals can muster. Do you guard your secrets carefully or do you share them with your competitors in the interests of the whole industry? Well, the BBC's Theo Leggett reports now on a vexing question.
The Tesla Model S is a car quite unlike anything else on the road today. From the outside, it looks fairly ordinary, an upmarket four-seater saloon with a big shiny bonnet that wouldn't look out of place alongside a BMW or a Jaguar. But under the skin, it's a remarkable machine. Because the Model S is an electric car, but it can accelerate as fast as a Porsche and travel for 400 kilometres between charges. Under the skin, it's packed with radical technologies. Yet over the past week, Tesla's chief executive, Elon Musk, has been hinting he might give some of that technology away. So what's he thinking of? I met up with him to find out.
What we really want to do is make great electric cars. We want to make an electric car that's better than any petrol car. And that's what's needed to really accelerate the advent of sustainable transport.
You said a few days ago that you intended to do something fairly controversial with patents. It's not clear what you meant by that. Are you considering giving technology away?
You're on the right track.
Why would you do that?
We're trying to figure out how to accelerate the advent of electric cars, and to the degree that we create technological barriers to that, it's not going to happen. We don't want to cut a path through the jungle and then lay a bunch of landmines behind us.
In the car industry, this would certainly be an unusual approach. Joint ventures aside, car makers traditionally guard their patents jealously, reluctant to let slip any developments that might allow them to gain an edge over their rivals. But elsewhere, there's certainly a precedent. Many small IT firms have become wedded firmly to the concept of open source, allowing others to use their designs or their software freely and make improvements when they wish. Adrian Bowyer founded the RepRap project, which makes 3D printer designs freely available online. He says it's transformed that industry.
When I started the RepRap project, the cost of a 3D printer was about $50,000 or $60,000. Now that cost has dropped to a few $100s because the RepRap project gave all the intellectual property to do with the machines away online, so everybody could improve the designs, they could amend the electronics, they could edit the computer code that drove the machine, and all those improvements fed back into the community in general, and everybody could take advantage of them.
If Elon Musk does decide to make some of Tesla's patents freely available, it'll break new ground in the motor industry. But perhaps this is something car makers will simply have to get used to. Because as cars become more and more like computers on wheels, increasingly dependent on fast-developing electronic technologies, the question of whether to fight for control over new designs or embrace the world of open source will become ever more urgent.
The BBC's Theo Leg.